Good Friday morning, a feel-good football Friday. We had an exciting, high-scoring Thursday night game for once last night, and maybe that is a sign of things to come coming up in this Week 7 in the NFL. You had a very low-scoring, sort of boring Week 6, so maybe we get a great offensive week in Week 7. It'd be nice to see the Giants be a part of that somehow, some way, because they don't score any points, and it has been miserable to watch this team. But I do believe it turns around on Sunday against the Commanders. We've got nothing else locally going on. All eyes are going to be on the Giants all Monday morning. It's going to be about the Giants because the Jets are on their bye, and I do believe they win this game, even with some of the issues they have, and I'm not even sure who's playing quarterback with Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. But to me, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And if they lose this game, then see ya. At that point, it is good night, turn off the lights, and trade everybody. Saquon's got to go. Whoever else you want to get off this roster, they got to go, and you got to break this thing down and build it back up again. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. How many guys are left on the roster right now? I mean, half the team is injured, and doesn't look like Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, or Daniel Jones are going to be playing. None of them practiced yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, this Andrew Thomas injury is just lingering and lingering. I mean, thought maybe it was going to be a 1 or 2 week injury, and now it's just, I mean, that's the worst injury that they've had all year, is that one, right? Because if you think about it, this guy was turned into the best left tackle in football, and they haven't had him in weeks, in a month.
I know from having a great left tackle myself what it does to the rest of the offensive line and how it just makes everybody better, especially when you got a guy that's setting the tone, and that's what he was doing. And now all of a sudden they are in a world of hurt and a world of trouble, and in come the Washington Commanders, who have not played bad, but who do have a pretty damn good defensive line. And again, I thought last week the Buffalo defensive line would control the game. I don't necessarily know that they did that, but I will say that Tyrod Taylor navigated things for the most part in the pocket really well. He got out of the pocket, made some plays. If he does play this week, it'll probably be the same kind of situation. I don't know about you, and I don't know how you felt about this game, and I know we talked about it after the game was over, but I went back and looked, and again, Tyrod Taylor was not bad. He was not bad at all. And, he's exactly what you want as a backup quarterback. And in some aspects, I would tell you that with him in the lineup, that the Giants actually looked like they raised their level of play, knowing that they had to support their backup quarterback.
Yeah, which we've seen happen before in short bursts, and then sometimes the backup quarterback, when they play too much, it ends up going south. But we knew how good Tyrod Taylor was as a backup. We knew that. I mean, he had multiple opportunities to start in the league. You didn't feel bad about him starting this game. It's not like you were going from Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson. It's not like you were doing that, especially the way that Daniel Jones was playing. But he also made the critical error that cost him the game, and I think that's why we sort of forgot about the good things that he did, is that end of the second quarter decision was just so miserable that you look back on that and say that's where everything changed for them.
For the most part, if you do watch that game and you go back and you look at what he's doing, he's staying in the pocket for the most part. And he's not running around, because he's, spooked or skittish, if you will, which happens to a lot of players in this league, especially at that position. And he looked like he was calm and cool. And for the most part, with the exception of the blunder at the end of the first half, and then of course not being able to close the deal at the end of the second half. I mean, those are things that you want your backup quarterback to be able to fight through those, but that's not what you're paying him for. You're paying the starter to get through stuff like that. And I look back at last night, and Derek Carr threw the ball 55 times, had a ball drop that would have allowed the Saints to either kick a extra point to tie the game or go for 2 and win the game. But it's amazing just watching some of the throws late in the game. This one here that CBS Sports Network is showing, that's the drop pass by Foster Moreau, their tight end. And the ball was right there. And Derek Carr did everything he was supposed to do. The throw after that throw and the 2 throws before that, there was no chance for his wide receiver to make a play. None whatsoever. And, that's kind of like the inconsistencies that their coach is talking about, is that they can't seem to, just go down there. Like, he's got guys open. He's not hitting them. And it's just a weird feeling like you look at his statistics, they're good for the night. He threw 55 times. But man, oh man, oh man. You talk about an inconsistent team, and this is the team that crushed New England 38-0, and then loses on the road to Houston, and then loses at home last night to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of what Derek Carr has been throughout his career, is sort of that up and down type of quarterback, and that's why when he was rumored to come to the Jets, I didn't love it. I knew it would have been an upgrade over Zach Wilson, but I didn't want Derek Carr. You know, there's the league is very specific with categories of quarterbacks right now. I mean, you have the really, really great ones that we know who they are. There's a couple of guys in the middle that keep it together but are never going to be the great ones and put up big numbers like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. Cousins a little bit better than Carr has been lately. And then you got the guys who just can't figure it out and are really bad. And really what you hope for is that those guys in the middle and the guys that are bad somehow figure it out and become the great ones. And generally that doesn't happen unless you see stuff from the very beginning, like we're kind of seeing from C.J. Stroud. So Derek Carr's just that guy that's stuck in that NFL quarterback purgatory where one day you think he's going to heaven and most days you think he's going to hell.
Well, and they're still in the NFC South, so they still have a very good chance of making it to the playoffs. So 3-4, you know, they got 10 games left. So and they're right in the mix, if you will, to win that division. And, you know, who knows? Maybe they get healthy and maybe their defense, you know, is the top 5 defense going into last night. And I will say this, that you know, Trevor Lawrence ran the ball effectively last night, which is nobody expected him to do that with a bad knee going into the game.
Right.
And he did it. And, you know, here you go. You got Jacksonville at 5-2 now. You know, and they're the team that everybody thought. So when I look at the preseason stuff, we all thought that the Lions would win the North. I thought that I think we all thought that the Jags would win the South because of Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I thought that and I still think that the Saints are going to win the NFC South.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that in my heart. It's
deep
right,
in your heart?
Deep in my heart. It's right there. I think they're going to win. And then the NFC East, I think we all felt like it was going to be the Eagles. The West was going to be San Francisco.
Yeah.
The AFC North is the one that you saw like 5, you know, everybody had different picks. Nobody really knew what to expect out of the AFC North. I think most people expect the Bengals to emerge out of that.
Yeah.
But John Harbaugh and your Baltimore Ravens.
My Baltimore Ravens. I'm not
a pain in the ass to play against, man.
Yeah, I'm not a big Ravens guy. I never was. Spent 5 years in Pittsburgh. I was taught to hate that Ravens team.
And the other one is the AFC East.
Yes.
Because the AFC West is going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Of course. Yep. So basically, things are unfolding the way we expected. I wasn't as high on the Lions as everybody else was because they were the Lions, quite frankly, and I needed to see it, and they're showing it to us, and they could end up having potentially home field advantage in the NFC if things end up working out for them. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, the NFL, you talk about parity and this and that, and there are teams that don't make the playoffs the year previous that make the playoffs the next year. There's been a little bit of a pattern of that, but generally the teams you expect to be good are good.
Well, the Giants are one of those teams that made the playoffs last year that are not going to make the playoffs this year. And the Saints are one of those teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that most likely will make the playoffs this year.
Sure. Yep, and the Lions are a team that's going to make it that didn't last year. The Vikings are a team that made it last year that won't this year.
Right.
So you could find those teams.
Now, are the Jets going to make it this year?
Well, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, they're not with that 7.5 number that we were talking about yesterday. I'm going to say no, they are not. And they're still going to, I think 8-9 is what I envision. I think they get over that 7.5 number, but 8-9 is not going to cut it for a wild card. They're going to have to at least get to 9-8, and I don't think they do that. And we got to remember too, like as good of a win as this was for the Jets over the Eagles, we were one better coaching decision away from the ball going back into Zach Wilson's hands for him to have an opportunity to win the game where most likely he would not have.
Well, just like, you know, the 49ers were one field goal away from walking off a winner and Brock Purdy having a comeback victory.
Yeah, but this is a team that went to an NFC title game last year, started off 5-0, and is looked at as one of the best teams in football with the most talent. Like the Jets have not looked like that since Zach Wilson was here, and they're now, even with that, 5-1. That's a road game for them against a great defense. 5-1 as opposed to the Jets that were 3-3.
My point is that really what it comes down to, normally at the end of the game, it's a decision here or there, either by the coach or a misplay by a player. So last night it was Foster Moreau has the ball right in his hands. Game would have been tied.
Yeah.
And who knows what goes on after that. You had the kicker for San Francisco missed 2 field goal attempts, including the game winner, that were very makeable kicks for him. And he was drafted.
Yeah.
He was supposed to make those kicks. Last week it was Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Right at the end of the game. The game's right there for them to win. Boom, they lose it.
I guess my bigger point is the fact that my opinion of the Eagles didn't change after what happened. My opinion of the 49ers didn't change after what happened. But the difference between whether the Jets won or lost that game were 3-3 and 2-4 and how it ended changed the opinion on the Jets for a lot of people. That's really the point.
Like they felt like, okay, instead of 2-4, they're 3-3, and now all of a sudden they got their season back on track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whereas if things had gone just slightly differently and Zach Wilson got the ball in his hands, we'd be screaming about it in the bye week about how they can't win with this guy and all these things and the trade deadline and everything else. Whereas these other teams that dropped the game here or there, like I still think the Eagles are a great team. I still think the 49ers are a great team. I just feel like that the end of that game just switched people's opinions on what the Jets could do so much. And I just caution people for that. Like that's all. I don't think that what we saw at the end of that game proved much about the Jets' ability to go on some sort of special run with Zach Wilson as the quarterback. It was a great win. And I'm glad they did it because 2-4 going into the bye and everybody screaming about that team would have been sickening with what's going on with the Giants right now. So it was great positivity. I just don't know if I feel like they're getting a little bit overrated right now at 3-3.
I don't know, the defense is pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, it's been
that's
good.
the thing I would hang my hat on. I mean,
but it's a team game, Boomer. It's a team game.
Listen, I get it. You have a running game and you got a defense.
Yeah,
I could win with that in this league. I may not win a Super Bowl, but I could definitely win my share of games with those two components.
Sure. Yes, and we've seen it. The Jets under Rex Ryan did exactly that.
Yes, they did.
And they got to back-to-back championship games. So, sure, I think the Jets will fall short of that, though. So, all right, I don't think the Jets will make the playoffs. I think they'll end up 8-9. What do you think? Think they're going to the playoffs? They're getting a wild card?
I think they can get to 9 wins.
And if they do, that'll be good enough?
Well, I don't know. In the AFC, it may not be good enough. That's the thing. Because the AFC North, there's 3. The Steelers are a weird team. I think they're an okay team. Their defense is not as good as everybody thinks it is. I mean, I think they're giving up almost 400 yards a game. So it's towards the bottom of the defensive statistics. But I do think that they at least have a pass rush. And that pass rush could end up winning you a game late in the game in the fourth quarter. Because they'll keep it close.
Yeah.
I just don't, I feel like the Bengals are better, the Ravens are better, and certainly Cleveland with that defense. I just don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson and his shoulder.
Yeah, and he says it's up in the air for him to start this week.
That's amazing. 2 weeks ago, they thought that he should have played, or they gave him the green light to play.
Yep.
And if you remember, he was out on the field before the game, and he was doing all these shoulder stretches and everything else. And everybody, we're sitting there at the NFL today going, oh, he's going to play. And then all of a sudden, nope, he's not playing.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the other quarterbacks on that roster, too. You'd like to know.
Well, maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they have an idea and they're not letting anybody know. I'm sure that like P.J. Walker he must have had an idea. It was starting, right? When he showed up at the facility, I would hope.
I would think you would.
Yeah. Don't you always have to prepare like you're starting? Right? Isn't that what all the backups say? Got to prepare like you're the starter.
You always got to prepare like you're starting. Yes, but it also would help that if you know the entire game plan and they can kind of do things that you do well, not hold back, but try to accentuate what you can do as a player. So if you're, a play action pass kind of move guy, build a little bit more of that into the offense so you play a little bit more comfortably. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So I was thinking about the Miami Dolphins, right, the other day, and I was thinking about, okay, their offense is like on a record pace, and whether or not Tyreek Hill is going to get over 2,000 yards receiving, and he's on pace to do that. And if he could stay healthy, I think he's going to do that. And the reason I say that is because I want to say, 4 out of their last 5 games are at home in
Yeah,
Miami.
that's right, and they've been unbelievable at home. I know I was a little bit bummed because Justin Jefferson was also on pace for that and get his hamstring injury. That would have been a cool thing for him. But, yeah, I mean, I believe that Tyreek Hill is going to do it. I mean, even if Tua goes down, I feel like Mike White will get him the ball too. I mean, that offense is just crazy.
You are on this Mike White train. It's just amazing.
No, I mean, you don't agree with that? You don't think that Mike White would get him the ball and be okay if Tua went down?
Man, you are on the train though. You're still on the Mike White train.
We're talking.
Like you have never jumped off of it.
I'd rather. Wouldn't it be awesome if Mike White were still here? Be great. Not have to deal with this. He would have, if as long as he could stay healthy, he would have that team humming offensively.
He's
you
like
know
a
it, I
crash
know it.
test dummy, though. He just
I
takes
understand.
Hit after hit after hit.
I know. I mean, that's the one knock on him.
Part of the nuance of playing quarterback is trying not to take straight on hits.
I understand. That's the knock against him, but
get rid of the ball. Put it in somebody else's hands.
I mean, you could make a case that the best quarterback play that we have seen from a Jets quarterback was from Mike White since maybe
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick in that one season was very, very good. Yeah, and then after that, it was Mike White. And then even before that, I mean, maybe, the Sanchez tenure is sort of debatable, but I mean, Chad Pennington, maybe. I mean, Mike White's in that conference. The games that he played, that was the best quarterback play we've seen from the Jets in a very, very long time.
Man, you are still on that train, though, man. It is unbelievable.
Why not?
You are the Mike White hype man.
Why not? You asked me if Tyreek Hill could get to 2,000 yards.
And then you turned it into a Mike White discussion.
No, you said, well, if he could stay healthy. So then I thought, all right, what else could derail him?
And then you
if Tua went down. I was like, all right, if Tua went down, Mike White could do it. So, yeah, I think he'll get to 2,000 yards.
Again, Mike White.
It's my guy.
You just said Mike White like 10 times.
I know. Well, I miss him. Don't you?
Not really, no.
The most exciting New York football that we had outside of the Giants' playoff win was with Mike White.
Who's better, Mike White or Daniel Jones?
I mean, Mike White's more fun. I'll put it that way.
Well, everybody's more fun. I mean,
I would. If you're telling me I had one game to win, I would take Mike White. I would,
unless it was against the Vikings. Then you have to take Daniel Jones.
Yeah, true. He did end up having a great game that day, but something happened to him. Something happened to him that day. He was touched by the hand of God, as Dave Gettleman said. Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.